another quick one here. Opacity versus RGBA for various things on your page. I'm inside opacity.html, which is inside our lab folder. So first of all, what opacity and RGBA can and cannot do for you. If you take a look at opacity.html in the browser, it looks like this. So we have a problem. This is pretty common, actually, to a pretty common thing that happens. And we have this awesome background image, and it's really hard to read the text on top of it. So what I'd like to do is affect the opacity of this element so that I don't see as much of the background image. Let's dim that background image out a little bit. So I have the background image up here, and I'm just going to add an opacity to it. This is going to be trouble, by the way. So opacity, you can specify, so something that's fully opaque is 1, and something that's fully transparent is 0. So if we set opacity to, let's say we want the image to not be quite as bright, let's say maybe 40%, so 0.4, save and refresh. Oh, that's not what I meant. So what happened? It didn't make the background image more opaque, it made the contents of the div, or in this case, the body tag. I mean, the content's opaque, so the text is opaque. That's not what I want. You can see what it does, though. If you want an item to, the strawberry, for example, also got dimmer, so that might be helpful in a moment. What would be more helpful for us is to put a background behind this text so it's more readable, and then we'll see in a little bit what else we can do. So let's leave this for now. I can't use opacity here. That's not going to work for me. Let's see what else might be a better idea. I have a content section here. Let me use that. And class equals content, maybe the section tag is important. I don't know enough yet to know. Let's slap a background on this. And let's just make a white background color. And I know I'm going to want to see more of Katahdin, but for a moment, let me just put some margin around it. So I can see a bunch of the mountains, and that will be good enough, right? Okay, it'll be better shortly. So now I can see the text. Yes, great. Let's explore a couple more opacity items before actually fixing our original problem. So hover effects. Opacity can be used to make a hover effect really nicely. For example, if I want the strawberry to be 50% opaque until I hover over it, and then make it 100%, I can get a nice effect. This is this example here. Okay, where is the strawberry? It is here. It's got a class of dim on it. So I'm just going to make a rule for image.dim and say that by default it is opacity 0.5. And then when I'm hovering over it, I want to set the opacity to full opacity. Save and refresh. There it is, dimmed out. And then as I hover, so this is a nice way to make it something look active. A really easy way to do a rollover in CSS that's doesn't require multiple background images. Yay. That is a good use of opacity. If you want to do something like, so again, I can't take this background and make it partially opaque white. We know from before, right? Because if I try to do that on this content, background color white, same problem, opacity 0.5, right? All the text gets less opaque also, which is not what I meant. So this effect I like, but this is not what I can use opacity for because it affects the text. So for an image, great. For text, not so great. In the case of my problem here, what I'd like to do, well, I have two ways I can go about it. Let me work with the white background, for example, at first, and then we'll move on from there. So if I want to make this background not 100% opaque, then I can't use the color white. I've got to use RGBA. So just as a review, so hexadecimal colors and RGB colors specify colors in 3 color channels are red, green, and blue, hence RGB. So if I'm specifying the color white with all channels fully on, I can say RGB, and then I can list 3 numbers, 255, 255, 255 gives me full white. So if I save and refresh this, I should get the exact same result as I'm currently getting. So it's still white. However, if I want to add an alpha channel to make it not fully opaque, I can add an A here, and then this fourth number is the opacity, again, between 0 and 1. So if I want to make this mostly white, but just not all the way on, I can say like 0.4, and it will give me 40% white. Nice, right? And then you can dial up the opacity on and off. So this is really common, especially when you have a busy background image going on, to do that. Maybe I want a little bit more opacity here than 0.4, like 0.6, but you can decide.